So where are we going this week? Do you know? Disneyland? No, not Disneyland. Are we reviewing any lenses?
No.
No. Are we reviewing any camera systems? No. Well, what are we even talking about then?
I don't know.
Well, this week we're going to talk about something we have not talked about before. And what is that?
Where your sphincter puckers.
Bokeh, baby. That's not quite how you pronounce Bokeh. Anyway, so Bokeh, baby. Do you know anything about Bokeh? You know anything about Bokeh?
No.
No, I didn't think so. Well, let's find out together. Grab yourself something to eat or drink. Get yourself comfortable.
You just ate the most acid I've ever seen anybody eat in my life.
And let's get it on.
Here I am, Vietnam. Rain is always coming down.
This is Camera Talk with Dr. Scott and Dylan. That's right, Dylan and I back for another episode of Camera Talk. This week, we're not looking at camera gear, camera stuff. What are we looking at? Well, it's kind of a mixture of camera technique as well as situation. And a mix of obviously gear in there to put it all together in a big hodgepodge and come up with something called Bokeh.
Rich, smooth, buttery bokeh.
You ever heard of Bokeh? No? Well, Bokeh is derived from a Japanese transliteration of a word bokeh that kind of means blur, haze, with the quality of. And of course, if you're going to say the quality of, you got a word or tag an extra part of a Japanese word on there called agi. So Boke-agi, or agai. I don't know how to pronounce that either.
Over-the-top rendition of the Japanese accent.
But that's the word quality. So it's the quality of the blur is where that comes from. Now this was attributed to someone named Mike Johnson back in the late 1990s. And there was a magazine called Photo Technique that put the letter H on the end of it to help us with our pronunciation. Because as you know, us Westerners aren't great at pronouncing other languages' vocabulary.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
So bokeh is what it was. Now you hear all kinds of people saying bokeh, bokeh, and everything else.
Sweet, sweet bokeh.
But Japanese language experts say there is no, if something ends with an E, it's an sound, not an A sound. So there's no bokeh. But you can call it bokeh if you want. Hey, why not? We all call potato, potato, tomato, tomato.
Potato. Tomato.
Bokeh, bokeh. But I call it bokeh. Anyway, the topic bokeh in photography is a very subjective thing. You know, some people love it, some people don't. Some people call bokeh described in various ways like smooth and silky and painterly and soap bubble. Or on the negative side, it's busy or it's nervous or it's jagged or it's distracting. But there's a lot of factors that go into creating the quality of that out of focus background. And, you know, that's how we pretty much have termed it to be. Bokeh is the quality of that out of focus background. Now, it's a combination of the lens as well as the physical world that we're in. So with the lenses, it's, you know, like checking out my my Canon 50 millimeter 0.95. I mean, you look at the size of that sucker, giant element on the front. And, you know, obviously a 0.95 aperture is going to give you a pretty shallow depth of field, right? So as far as the lens goes, it's a mix of the aperture, the focal length, and the optical design or the formula of the elements. But you combine that with distance, the lens to the subject, and then the subject to the background. The distance in between is going to affect, again, the quality of that bokeh,
Why I hate math.
the quality of your out of focus background. So looking at a little more detail about the lens, your aperture obviously is going to create the depth of field, whether it's shallow or not so shallow. It, again, depends on the construction of the lens itself. So the wider the aperture, so again a 0.95, is going to be a very shallow depth of field versus something that's a 2.8 or a 5.6 even. They have lenses out there that start at 5.6. Its depth of field is not very shallow at all. So it's going to affect the quality of that out of focus background. And even those with the same aperture, there's a variety, and I'll show you in a little bit, different apertures at 1.4, for example. Different manufacturers, whether they're Zeiss's or Takamars or Leicas or Topcores or anything else, they, just because they're 1.4 doesn't mean they all have the same out of focus background.
Same, but different. But still same.
Or the quality of it, they look different. So I'll show you that in a little bit as well. And then you have distance. Again, the closer, so taking that lens into consideration, the distance, if your subject is closer to you, it's going to affect, again, what is considered out of focus from there. If you're focusing in on something that's closer to you, then things will start to fall off faster behind you, behind the subject. And of course, if the background is at a decent distance from the subject, it's going to have a much more out of focus area. If your background is only, let's say, a half a meter or a meter behind the subject, you're not really going to get a lot of out of focus stuff there because it's, your background is so close to the subject. So it does make a difference. So decreasing the distance between the lens and the subject and increasing the distance between your subject and the background is going to make a world of difference in the quality of your out of focus background.
Are we clear?
Crystal.
So with that said, it's a combination of all. So with that said, how about we take a look at some of the finer aspects of your out of focus background. What do you think, Stinky? Getting tired? It's his nap time, so he's being very nappy at the moment.
You are a smelly pirate hooker.
So anyway, let's check those out. So let's take a quickie break, right? Quick break. All right, so here we are, back from Dylan's little nap. We took a little time out. Dylan's feeling much better. Got himself a little case of hiccups. But here we are to talk about the rest of our Bokeh episode. So, you've heard about good Bokeh? You've heard about bad Bokeh. You've never heard of either one? That's fine. Well, now you gave me the hiccups. What the hell? Good Bokeh, bad Bokeh. Well, bokeh is not a factual thing. That you can't just say, well, that's good bokeh, because again, it's subjective. So, when you hear people talking about that, it really is up to each one of them to decide what they want as far as what they're looking for in their bokeh. So it might be pleasing to you, might be completely hideous to me.
Oh, that's disgusting.
It's kind of like the sensitivity of art, right? art can be very sensitive.
I'm a fucking artist. I'm sensitive as shit.
But if bokeh is important to you, I mean, if you're a wedding photographer, portrait photographer, you know, looking for that pleasing, what you would consider pleasing background, out of focus stuff, then get to know your lenses. I mean, you got to know what the difference is between those 50 millimeter lenses that you have. If you only have one, then I guess you just live with the bokeh you got. But if you're like me and you got 100 plus, then you get to kind of play around with what kind of bokeh you're looking for a specific situation. You get the pleasure of that, I guess. Now, one of the aspects of bokeh too that we talk about are the bokeh balls. Now, you like your balls round, right?
Say everybody haven't seen my balls.
You like round balls? Hey, Dylan? You like round balls? Huh? Yeah. Well, having round balls is pleasing to a lot of people when they're talking about their bokeh. So anyway, are they round, or are they nut shaped, or are they ninja star? Now those are the natural effects of bokeh, and you can actually even create your own. I mean, there's patterns you can cut out on pieces of paper and put them over your lens and whatnot, and it creates star shapes or triangles or who knows what you want to create for your bokeh. But naturally occurring bokeh depends on a number of things. Again, the aperture, obviously wide open, you're going to get about as round as you can get. Now, depending on the lens elements too, you'll end up with elliptical shapes and everything else. I'll talk about that in a second. But just the effect of your bokeh ball with the aperture wide open, it is what it is. But if you start to stop down, where you're closing in your aperture, now the aperture blades themselves play a role. What do you see through there? Can you see your little binoculars? How many blades do you have in your lens? Are they straight?
Deal with it. Okay, and you're welcome.
Are they curved? They all play a role in that. Again, remember what I just said about nut shape. So if you've got some older, like Nikon or Canon and whatnot lenses, you'll find 5 aperture blades is pretty common. Sometimes 6-ish, 5-6 blades. And as you stop down, you'll get edges around them, and you'll end up with nut-shaped, as in nuts and bolts, nut-shaped bokeh balls. And others that are curved, you'll find maybe when you're stopping down for the first 1 or 2 stops, because they're curved, they're not completely circular at that point. So you're going to get little edges around the end, little serrated edges, and that's where the ninja star bokeh balls come into play. Now, due to light transmission through the elements, obviously, again, back to the design of the optics themselves. You know, towards the center, you're more likely to get the round bokeh balls. But as you start to get away from the center off to the edges, elliptical effects take place, and that's where you end up sometimes with what they call cat's eye.
Nope.
Shaped bokeh balls, and I'll show you examples of these in a sec. And sometimes they can get even more extreme, and you end up with what they call a swirl. A swirly bokeh effect. And you see those in Carl Zeiss Biotars and Helios, which is a Soviet copy of a Biotar. And there's several others that produce lenses based on that swirl intentionally, because some people seek it out. They like the swirly bokeh in the background. Other than that, you know, correcting for spherical aberrations has an effect on the bokeh ball as well. You know, if they're well corrected and designed intentionally this way, you'll end up with a neutral bokeh ball, pretty much just a straight on rounded edge bokeh ball. Nothing odd about it. It's just a bokeh ball. Now, if you under correct for it, you end up with blurred bokeh balls that look like cotton balls. You know, there's no edges. No edges to those balls. This looks like a cotton ball, right? And if you overcorrect, you end up with what you end up calling a soap bubble, or what's been labeled as soap bubble bokeh ball. And the famous makers of those effects are the Meyer optic Görlitz lenses, the MOGs, the Triplans, and so forth and so on. So they end up with this soap bubble effect. Now, aspherical lenses, and these are, again, aspheric lenses were designed to correct a lot of these aberrations. But now the effects that the aspheric lenses elements have on your bokeh is you can end up with the onion ring effect, which is the layers are ring inside a ring inside a ring inside a ring. Yeah, just like that. And anyway, so there's all these different versions of, that's right, I said version.
You must tie her down on a bed and spank her.
Of bokeh balls, and we can see some in the samples that I'll show you here. I took one of his little toys, little giraffe, and I plopped him on top of my tripod and reversed from where we are right now. So where the camera is, my Canon M50, recording this video right now, is where I took that camera out, put the giraffe on top of the tripod, and I stood behind the tripod and took photos of the giraffe with the lights on in the background, which are not on right now. And so it's focused mostly on this side of the scene. And so I was basically a meter, maybe under a meter from the giraffe. And of course, then the giraffe is another 1.5 to 2 meters from the background here. So you'll see the effects of these. So you'll see, let me show you, I did a Canon Dream Lens, the 50, 0.95. Then I did its more modern version of that. It's a TT Artisans 59.5. Then I did a bunch of 1.4s, 1.4, the Sumalux, the Top Core, the Zuiko Olympus. Then I did different focal lengths, the 35. I did the Sumalux 1.4 and Carl Zeiss Distagon 1.4. And then I showed you a 28 going wider, 28, 2.8. And in between that, there is a Summicron F2 and a Summicron R90, so a 50 F2 and a 90 F2, to show you what those look like. And then I cut out this side of the scene so you see the Dr. Scott neon with the bokeh balls from the lights behind that as examples. So let me show you samples of those. Are you ready?
Ready.
Here. So anyway, those are, just examples of what different lenses can produce as far as bokeh goes. And like I said, there's different versions. That's right, I said versions.
Shit.
Of the effect that people are looking for. As I said, you get smooth, you get silky, you get painterly. You get busy, you get nervous, you get distracting. Or you might find the opposite is true and you think one is terrible and the other one's more pleasing.
Yes.
It's all up to you. So anyway, that was our bokeh. That was our bokeh talk. Not sounds like a city in India, isn't it?
You're making fun of me?
But anyway, that was our talk about bokeh. Again, it's subjective. It's completely up to you whether you like it or not and how you use it. But anyway, so remember, lenses and distance. Those are the two things that make or break your bokeh.
Sweet, sweet bokeh.
So with that said, how about our little plug for our photo editing software that we use? It's called Luminar. Luminar AI is what I have, but we don't sell it anymore. Luminar Neo. Now Neo is just a combination of Luminar 4, which was their last rendition. Dude, you had a long nap today, mister, like 3 hours. You're still yawning.
Get the fuck out of here.
And Luminar AI. The AI obviously is something that's in the news lately, this whole year. Everybody's been talking about AI this and AI that.
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
We're not going to escape. It's not going to go away. So may as well make the most of it, right? As a university teacher, how do you think that impacts us with students using AI for writing their essays and reports and everything else? Kind of turns our industry on its ear. But anyway, AI, what does AI mean? Do you know AI? Do you know what AI stands for? You can tell us? What do you think it means? Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. No, you silly. It's not that. It's not that. No. Oh, yeah, you faker. It's artificial intelligence. That's right. Artificial intelligence. And how does that help with your photo editing? Well, it has spot dust removal. If you've got spots on either on your lens or on your sensor, either way. And as you can see from my demonstrations, if you look closely at some of the bokeh balls, you may see spots within those balls. And those are due to either spots on the sensor or spots on the rear element. So that's the other thing about your bokeh balls, which we didn't talk about, is the rear element needs to be pretty clean, or you're going to end up with artifacts in your balls. Artifacts in your balls. Oh my God.
Ew!
Power line removal. So it'll remove spots and dust. It'll remove power lines based on the AI. Click on the button. It'll analyze your photo and remove those things for you. Pretty wild, huh? It'll remove backgrounds. It will move the scene, move the light around the scene relighting, and many other different things. It's pretty cool. The other thing about Luminar as well is it's economical compared to some of the other players out there. It's under $100, so you can't beat that. And once you download it, it's yours for life. There are no subscriptions. They do have plans where you can get some fancy schmancy stuff that I don't use at all, but you could pay monthly for those things for the pros out there who want to do that kind of thing. And other than that,
What are you waiting for, huh?
you want to save 10 bucks? Do you want to save 10 bucks? Click in the description below. There's a link that'll take you to Luminar. You buy it through our link, you'll save 10 bucks. So if it's 90 bucks, now it's 80 bucks. Or if it's 80 bucks, now it's 70 bucks, whatever it is these days. And what do they do with that 10 bucks? They give it to us, right? Why do they give it to us?
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Because we went through the trouble to tell you about it. So that's our reward for telling you about Luminar. And what do they call that in the industry? They give us the 10 bucks, it's called kickback. Yeah! Kickback, that's right. What are you going to do with your $10? Are you going to save it?
$1 million.
You going to put it in the bank? Huh? You going to give it to mommy? Mommy. Yeah? You going to give it to daddy? Or are you going to give it to us both? I was going to say, oh, now you're playing favorites, damn you. Cool, you're going to give it to both of us. So you're not going to keep it at all. Oh, what a good boy. I bet you're just saying that now. Probably later you're going to want your money back.
Whatever.
Anyhow, yeah, so get yourself a copy of Luminar. Other than that, how about we get them to support our channel, right? You want to support us, help us get us out there, get us exposed to the world. And how can they do that? How about you subscribe? You want to do that on this side? Subscribe. And how about your hands, my hands together? All your fingers, more fingers, all your fingers together, subscribe. That's right, everybody subscribe. What else does YouTube like besides subscribers? They like two things. They also like the thumbs up, right? They like the thumbs up. How about we give them a little taste of the thumbs up girls? Ready? You gonna dance with me? Thumbs up. Do 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 do. Thumbs up. Right on. Yeah. He loves the thumbs up girls. Protects them a little too personally, I do believe they're not all your girlfriends, mister.
What you talking about, doctor?
Anyway, yeah, you're supposed to put the bunny ears behind my head, not in front of my head. So, yeah, there you go. Mr. 3-year-old learns very quickly. Anyway, well, who are we? I'm Dr. Scott. You're Dylan.
I'm Batman.
I'm Spartacus!
Bond. James Bond.
Hello. My name is Inigo Montoya.
And together we are all Modesty Photography. We're here to talk about tips and tricks about photography, lenses, camera systems, Bokeh, whatever. We talk about it, right? So should they come back next week? Yeah, should come back next week. And why? Because we do one of these every Friday. Well, that's Friday Vietnam time, so it could be the day before you or the day after you or the same day as you. That's how the funky time works here in this world with different time zones. So anyway, what else can we say? Well, what's the other reason to support Luminar? Forgot to mention that too. Because they're in Ukraine. Ukraine's getting nothing but problems from Mr. Vlad next door. So support them because they're, busy trying to produce, this lovely software for us and upgrade it. You get free upgrades, by the way, while bombs are dropping on them and everything else. So, damn, Mr. Putin. Anyway, other than that, why should they come back? Because you belong here. That's right. Where do they belong? Where do they belong? Let's move you on the front. Ready?
Ready?
This is Camera Talk with Dr. Scott and Dylan. That's right, and Dylan. So thank you for dropping by. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for buying a copy of Luminar through our link. Thank you for coming back next week to watch another episode. And thank you for just being you. That's right. So you think we mentioned everything?
Yes!
Yeah, I think so too. All right. So, you want to say bye-bye?
Bye.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Bye-bye.
Here I am,